Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Billy Taylor scored a touchdown from 21 yards out. The crowd goes berserk. It was November 22nd, 1969. That they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to our Ohio State Visitors edition of the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. With us today is the beat writer Tim May from Lettermen Row, who has covered the game for 40 years, most of them when he was at the Columbus Dispatch. So Tim will join to share his thoughts on Saturday's game after we get things started with my view from Section 17 and hear what Jim had to say at his Monday presser. We held our collective breath Saturday during a nerve-wracking fourth quarter against Maryland. It wasn't pretty, but the D came up big and we got the W. That is all that matters. From the moment that game ended, the focus shifted to Ohio State. If you thought the atmosphere was wild the last 2 years, wait until this Saturday in the Big House. Jim will be serving the last game of his suspension. Sharon Moore and all of the coaching staff will be calling the shots on game day, and I cannot imagine the pressure Sharon will be dealing with. But he has been well prepared by Jim for this moment. There are things to be concerned with. JJ didn't look right on Saturday, and we need him to be at his best, maybe even better than his best. The injuries on the offensive line are also of concern. From what I understand, Roman Wilson was held out after his big hit as just a precautionary move. So let's hope so, but Sharon Moore said on Monday that all of those guys should be ready to go on Saturday. We have all week to get ready and heal, and it sounds like the NCAA is going to stay away this week so the players can focus on the game, so hallelujah for that. The last 2 weeks have been stressful and distracting to players and coaches alike, and that's putting it mildly. Getting ready for any game needs total focus, but getting ready for the game is a different approach altogether. We'll be ready, and we'll need to be, because Ohio State is hitting on all cylinders right now. It is going to be a nerve-wracking 60 minutes of football in the Big House, but I can't wait. At his Monday presser, Jim was asked what his level of respect was for Ryan Day and his staff.
It's all about our preparation for Ohio. You know, the days, the minutes, the hours, everything leading up to this game. You know, that's where our focus is. Preparing ourselves and planning, gonna practice and then execute. So, anything else is irrelevant, when you get into this kind of big game week.
Jim said his coaches and everyone on the team was prepared for all the extra work it will take this week to get ready.
Yeah, it's really a battle-tested team and empowering people. You know, it's really that. You know, empowering our coaches, empowering our players. Just amazing job that they've done. Amazing effort, and where players have gone about things, coaches, players. I mean, I just think back over the last, 5-6 weeks, especially. I mean, it's just been like a high-pitched siren, like a deafening, ear-piercing noise, and just after a while, you start to tolerate it. And then before you know it, you just block it out. So it's stay on course. That's what our team has done, and just keep the priorities right and keep the priorities straight, which is faith, family, and football.
He was asked if this week would be the ultimate test in blocking out the noise.
I go back to that. It's like the Ted Lasso show. Believe. What comes out of that is believe, and I'm just so proud of our team. Despite that noise, our locker room's in one piece. And like Ted, for me, locker rooms, a lot like my mom's bathing suits. I like to see them in one piece. And we've got that, and it's amazing. There's so many lessons to be learned, many life lessons that our young guys are learning at this age, and it's how the world works and keeping those priorities straight, faith, family, and football. And we're battle-tested and ready to go, and now it's all Ohio. The week's all about Ohio, working really hard to get ready for this game, using the hours, the minutes, the days to hone our focus, get prepared, plan, practice, and then go execute the game.
Jim addressed what the team's plans are for Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, we'll practice Thanksgiving, and then everybody have the opportunity to enjoy the day with their families. Most of the time, families come in town, and those that don't go with another family, invited to practice. It's always a great day.
My guest today says he likes Ohio State's chances on Saturday, but this game will come down to which team makes the big plays and avoids mistakes. With us next is beat writer Tim May from Lettermen Row ON3. So stay with us. Here with us today as we get ready for the game is Tim May, who covers the Buckeyes for Lettermen Row after a long time with the Columbus Dispatch. Great to have you back with us, Tim.
Always a pleasure. You know that, my man.
Well, Tim, big doings this week. We all know that. And, when you look at those Buckeyes, abundantly clear this team is healthy after watching that Minnesota game on Saturday. And they are peaking at the right time, aren't they?
Yeah, it appears that way. I mean, every team has its trials and tribulations as the season goes on. But what's really come on is it looks like Ohio State's primary weapons on offense are all going to be available, which wasn't the case when Ohio State hosted Michigan last year. Meaning, primarily, I was talking about Travion Henderson, the running back. Anybody can see what he brings to the table when he's close to 100%. And the last several games, he has been not only just a runner, but also a pass catcher out of the backfield and stuff. And it has really enhanced an offense that already includes maybe the best wide receiver in the country. In my opinion, he is Marvin Harrison Jr., the reemergence of Emeka Egbuka as a wide receiver, and then tight end Cade Stover to go with a maturing offensive line. And, of course, Cal McCord, first-year starting quarterback. But he's been playing on a gimpy ankle pretty much the whole season. So that won't be any different for him on Saturday. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, offensively, Ohio State's coming on. And, I'm sure you're going to ask him about Ohio State's defense. So I'll let you ask me before I give all the answers.
We'll talk about Kyle McCord for a minute. I mean, this is his biggest moment. There's no question about that. He looked great in the end against Notre Dame, which I would say is the biggest test so far. But he has matured and looks really comfortable back there now, doesn't he?
Yeah. And, he still makes the occasional mistake, and then occasionally the offensive line gets things wrong and bottles him up. But, every quarterback, you've been running this game as long as I have, every quarterback is different. And to compare him to J.T. Barrett or Dwayne Haskins Jr. or Justin Fields or definitely C.J. Stroud isn't fair, because they all did things a little bit differently. I'm talking about the previous starting quarterbacks for Ohio State. So he has come into his own, and like I said, he's rarely had all of his primary weapons with him on game days, from one week to the next. And that's what stands out about this team is as we record this, knock on wood, at the moment, at least Ohio State will be knocking on wood. It looks like all those guys are going to be available, which always makes your quarterback look a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about having weapons around you. As you mentioned, Travion Henderson looks like he is 100% now. And Marvin Harrison Jr., you've been around this thing so long, Tim. Have you seen a better receiver at Ohio State than Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I am not dancing around that subject, but I've been asked that a lot, for example, this year. And I just go, Chris Carter was a hell of a receiver. Terry Glenn, Joey Galloway. I mean, I can name another 10 guys. They're all different, man. I mean, you can't put any of them in the same little crate and say they're all the same grade A eggs. You know what I mean? They all were a little bit different sizes, different shapes. The thing that Marvin Harrison Jr. is, and I've told him this a couple of times, he's almost like an artist playing wide receiver.
Yeah.
He does something every game, almost every game, that you haven't seen before, from getting a foot down in bounds to making an over-the-shoulder catch. You go, how do you even keep his eye on the ball? I mean, there's just something, it's kind of like you go to a Broadway production, and I'm not talking about just a drama, but, where there's song and dance and stuff, and you see somebody do something you've never seen before, or hear a song sung like you've never heard it sung before. That's what Marvin Harrison Jr. brings to the table. He is definitely an artist playing wide receiver. But on top of that, he's taller than his dad, he's faster than his dad, and he's bigger than his dad physically. And his dad was a NFL or Pro Football Hall of Famer. So, he is special in his own right.
Well, the offense is humming for all of those reasons that we've just mentioned. And so let's talk about that defense. I mean, it was really good last year, but Coach Knowles, in his second year now, and by every measurable statistic and the eye test, this defense is, I'd call it elite. It's pretty darn good, isn't it?
Well, when they left the Ohio State game last year and gave up 5 plays for touchdowns of more than 50 yards, or right at 50 yards. I mean, I think the average was like 55, 57 yards on 5 of those Michigan touchdowns. It might have been higher than that, actually. My math skills eroded long ago. But the bottom line is that had to get fixed. And, of course, the bugaboo came back and bit them at exactly the wrong time when they had the big lead on Georgia going into the fourth quarter, but lost Marvin Harrison Jr., at the end of the third quarter to that hit in the head. Once again, Georgia hit some huge plays in the passing game. Ohio State, so far, as they say, knock on wood, has worked really hard in the offseason to fix that, to have an umbrella, so to speak, over the top when it starts raining. And it's really funny, like the biggest play Ohio State's given up from scrimmage so far this year was, in essence, a sort of a mix on a fumble roosty play by Rutgers going for it on 4th and 1, and the quarterback took the snap and passed it through his legs to the running back, who looked like he was going to do the tush push. Instead, he went the bend end, and went 45 yards or whatever. He didn't score, though, on that play, and Ohio State held Rutgers to a field goal. So that stands out too about this defense. It's when it's been pushed its back against the goal line, it's done a really good job this year of standing firm, bend but don't break, so to speak. It has not given up more than 2 touchdowns in any game so far this year, and the last 2 games it's given up merely a field goal in each game. So they feel like they've come a long way defensively, but they all know their biggest test is coming on Saturday against J.J. McCarthy and Michigan's offense.
Well, and I know Coach Knowles and the guys have been waiting for over a year for this game.
Oh, yeah.
How do you like that matchup against the Michigan offense right now?
I like it pretty good because something about, this will come back to, I'm sure, blow up in my face to say it, but something about the Michigan offensive line, for example, it's still imposing, but from a pass protection standpoint, I think they were maybe better last year. And of course, you know, and I know they didn't let J.J. McCarthy really air it out until the Ohio State game last year from the standpoint of throwing the ball. So it kind of seems like they've gone into that shell again the last couple of games. Obviously, they didn't throw one pass in the second half against Penn State. And then last week against Maryland, it looked like they had some problems, throwing the ball for several reasons, including looked like J.J. McCarthy's kind of banged up. But I like where this Ohio State defense is right now from the standpoint of the progress it's made and the confidence it's playing with. But man, you and I both know, who knows, right, how this game is going to go.
Yeah.
Michigan's given up an average of 9 points a game, 9.0 points a game, leading the nation defensively. Ohio State's giving up 9.27 points a game defensively. Dude, we may have a reincarnation of 1973 all over again.
Well, yeah, you're right. We don't know what's going to happen.
No.
It's
Big
just
plays.
That's right.
Big plays are going to decide this one just like last year.
Yeah.
And Michigan hit way too many of them for Ohio State to keep up.
Well, Tim, there's been a lot written in the last few days regarding who has the most pressure on them. Ryan Day stopped that 2-game skid, or Sharon Moore having to be acting head coach for a game of this magnitude. And I'm not sure it's even a fair question, but who would you say has the most pressure?
Well, Ohio State's lost 2 in a row. Urban Meyer went undefeated against Michigan, no matter who they had on the sideline. Jim Tressel went, 9-1,
Mm-hmm.
unless, you don't count the vacated win. Ryan Day, the last 2 losses were tough, but last year the loss didn't end the Ohio State season. Ohio State got to play in the college football playoff and played Georgia better than anybody last year. But still, 3 in a row is tough. But I've told people this, man, the days of the Ohio State-Michigan game, getting a coach fired or the opposite of that. I mean, Jim Harbaugh lost his first 5 to Ohio State. John Cooper went 2-10-1 against Michigan. Not 2-5-1, 2-10-1.
Yeah.
It's usually other things that catch up with coaches these days. But yeah, the pressure's on. And Ryan Day's the first to tell you he wants to win. He wants to see his team win more than anybody for all kinds of reasons. And the outside pressure, as you know, you've been around it. The outside pressure is always going to be there from fans of both of these programs. All you got to do is get on X, formerly known as Twitter, and just read through the timeline.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, there's pressure. But Sharon Moore, it'll be interesting to see how he goes about things again on game day. But he's 3 games into this. And I do believe any kind of like a pump that Michigan got from the Jim Harbaugh situation not being there, they used that pretty much against Penn State. So this is going to be, Sharon Moore versus Ryan Day, but really it's going to be the 2 teams they put on the field.
Well, final question before we let you get away, Tim, because you've got a crazy busy week like all of us, but you've been around the game for a long time now. I mean, we've seen so many of these games, and we have our favorites. Everyone does. Many in my age group say the 10-year war was the best period in the rivalry. But these last 3 years, man, I mean, they have been incredible, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, actually, go back to when Jim Harbaugh showed up, 2015. From then on, it's been a really interesting deal because Ohio State still owned the series there, but there were couple of really good games in that span. You know what I'm saying? It was just because you've won 9 in a row or 5 in a row or 2 in a row doesn't mean you dominated. But what Michigan did the last 2 years was dominate the second half of both of those games. And that's really the sign of a really well-coached and good football team. And so Ohio State, which its 2 losses last year came in the second half. Well, they always do, but you know what I mean? I mean, they seem to have control of games and then lost them in the second half. That's what Ohio State wants to get fixed and wants to finish. But it's really funny how both these teams are 11-0, 2-3 in the country, and we're making like this game makes or breaks whether you have a successful season or not.
Yeah.
But you know what? When you're playing in this realm, when you're playing among the elite, that is what it comes down to.
What a day it is going to be on Saturday. We're all looking forward to it. Here with us today has been Tim May, who covers the Buckeyes for Lettermen Row after, as I said, a long time with the Columbus Dispatch. Tim, always great to have you on the show with us. And, man, this week especially, we appreciate you carving out some time for us. And We look forward to another visit in the future.
I carved out time for you, and now I'm going to go carve the turkey, and then I'll be up there. I'll be up there at the big house. I mean, this will be my 40th straight game covering this series. It's kind of crazy. And I helped cover a few before that, and it's just amazing. When you take the series for granted, one side or the other does, right? The other one pops up his head. This year, is it going to be Ohio State pop its head back up? That's what everybody's interested in seeing.
Well, we're going to find out at 12 noon Saturday, so enjoy the turkey and enjoy the trip up to Ann Arbor, Tim.
You got it, brother. I always do.
On Quick Hits today, as we discussed at the top of the show, on Monday, Sharon Moore addressed the injury situation. Ladarius Henderson is still working through something, but should be good to go. Roman Wilson's status will be determined by the medical staff during the week, but he also should be ready to play. Miles Hinton suffered a knee injury Saturday, but tests showed no damage. He should be available too. J.J. McCarthy has been working through a lower body injury suffered in the Penn State game, but Sharon said he talked to J.J. on Monday morning, and he said he feels great. Other than that, we are ready to rock on Saturday. Thanks again to Tim May for being our guest today. He was the Buckeye beat writer for the Columbus Dispatch for over 35 years, and now covers the team for Lettermen Row ON3. On Thursday, we'll keep our own tradition for the game. Joining me will be the angel of the big house, beat writer Angelique Shengelis from the Detroit News. So even though it's a busy day filled with family and friends, please take a few minutes to join us. That does it for now. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Until we meet again on Thursday, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!